Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's that time of year. We are only a couple of days away now from the start of the season. Spring training, last day is rolling right now. So it's time for me to do the division prediction videos. We had 6 different videos, kind of a preview of all the divisions, allowed me to try to get up to speed on everything that was going on as well. And those aren't technically my predictions. Well, I gave some hints as to probably where I'm leaning. Most of this is going to probably be on the fly. It's not a lot of getting ready, not a lot of research going into this. This is just going with my gut. The next video I'm going to come out with tomorrow, I'll go over the power rankings. It's going to be the first time I do a power rankings video at the beginning of the season. Usually we wait 10 games or so before the first one. So that one's going to be a little interesting. It's not going to be the exact same as this. It's going to be more of, I think, a vibe of where teams are at as opposed to where I think things are going. And so that'll be a little bit different. But guys, let's jump into it. And as per usual, when we do a kind of video, we usually start with the AL. And starting with the American League East over here. And guys, I ran it by the Discord and I had deep down inside, you can see my bias was probably coming out because I really wanted to put the Jays at number 1. But just as I started digging deeper into rosters and kind of projections of other analysts and stuff that I respect, I kind of had to come back down to the realization maybe the Jays aren't going to be number 1, but at least I don't think they're going to be in last place. Right now, I predict that Tampa Bay will kind of be coming up the rear in this division. Most years, I do not get Tampa that right. Usually I underrate them at the start of the year and they start climbing. But I think last year was kind of that turning point where my gut feeling about this team started to come to fruition. They lost Franco, I think, a year and a half ago, was it now? It's been that long. And ever since then, it's kind of been like this franchise has had one disaster after another. Now they're playing out of George Steinbrenner Stadium. It's kind of like, is this the last? We'll see if Tampa Bay, as a Tampa Bay organization, probably not this year, right? But it's definitely the rumors going around with what's going on with Tampa Bay. It sucks because I really love their City Connect stuff that they came out with last year. But Tampa, overall, the offense, a lot of concern. Pitching always seems to be something to be excited about with this team. But overall, I do think they're going to be below 500, maybe a few games. I think they're going to be decently 4 or 5 games out of 4th place. Right now, contrary to where I really felt like putting them, I do have the Toronto Blue Jays. I think this story comes down to it's possible 2 different teams. One is going to be Vladdy having an MVP kind of year, the rotation not showing their age and pretty being steady, not dealing with a lot of injuries, and a bullpen that we haven't seen in Blue Jays uniforms showing up. And the pitching wasn't the worst part of the Blue Jays last year, but the bullpen definitely was, and there was times when the offense wasn't going. So if Vlad has a kick-ass start to the start of the season, this team's in the playoff race. We're not going to talk about Vlad being dealt. We're not going to be talking about Bo being dealt at the deadline. These guys are going to be sticking around. I think that's going to be very important if we're going to have a Jays team that has a chance at number 1. Guys, I'm saying it. I think they have a chance at number 1 in this division. Number 3, I do have the Baltimore Orioles. And for me, a lot of this is stemming on last year. The last half of the season just was not there for the Orioles. And in my opinion, their starting pitching took a step back. Of course, losing Corbin Burns, you can't really replace him very easily. And the Orioles have never really been able to replace someone like him in the free agent market. But overall, this lineup, they did lose Santander to a division rival. But overall, the young guys, this is going to be their chance to really shine and show that it's possible these young guys can carry this franchise forward. Maybe, just maybe, they can do it on the back of the bats. But I think in a division where pitching is going to be at a premium, we have the 2 teams ahead of them, in my opinion, that have some solid starters, even though there are injuries going around. I think the Orioles going to be a little bit ahead. But I think these 2 teams will match up very well. And I'm excited to watch them play. Number 2, this division is, in my opinion, going to be really tight. We have the Boston Red Sox, and I really started digging into it, and I'm not so certain that I'm sold that Boston is light years ahead as most people are predicting. A lot of people are predicting them to win the division. A lot of teams pretty much putting them way ahead of these three. I'm not so sure. I did kind of see a world where Boston could be fifth, could be fourth. I don't think it's outside of the question. It really is going to come down to whether Durant can really repeat what we've seen from him a lot. It's going to come down to, does the Bregman signing pay dividends with Devers? A little bit of protection there. It's going to come down to, is Buehler going to make an impact, or is we going to kind of see what we saw him on the Dodgers last year? So those little additions, and rather Hurek can continue his dominance from last year. The rotation, in my opinion, while they do have some highlight names, some guys that have maybe had 1 or 2 good years, it's not solid. And the bullpen, they did bring in a lot of names. They brought in Liam Hendricks. They brought in Chapman. And these guys are old, in my opinion. So not necessarily going to be good adds for a bullpen. Sure, they've done it, but this is a new age MLB. I don't know. I think number 2 is ambitious, but just come to that. And that leads us to number 1. I think a lot of people are jumping off the wagon of the Yankees at this point in the predictions, and I just wasn't ready to. Sure, they lost Garrett Cole. We're not sure if he's going to really go this year or when he'll be back. A couple days ago, they lost Gill as well in their starting rotation, and they kind of did a somewhat desperate signing of Carlos Carrasco, bringing him up from the minors. And Carrasco, the fact that he's going to be in the MLB team in short porch in New York is going to be fascinating. Does Stanton stay healthy? Do some of these other guys stay healthy? I think that's the big question. And Judge didn't look great in spring training, but again, in spring training, we've seen slow starts. We've seen slow stretches from Judge before. So whether he's going to be impactful, we got to remember they did sign Max Fried, just an absolute ace here. This rotation still relatively strong. They have Stroman, they got Rodon. Will Warren is supposed to be an impact player. So they still have 4 pretty solid starters. So I'm not going to discount. I think the Yankees still are going to come out ahead in this division, maybe very possibly the top of the American League. Moving on to the Central Division, I'm not going to talk too much about them. I'm not going to get them wrong this year. Last year, I actually predicted that the White Sox would be 3rd in the division, and everybody in the comments called me out on how wrong I was, and sure enough, I was way wrong, and I'm just going to stick them in the bottom. I don't think there's too much to say. They're going to be a 100-loss team very likely again. Everyone else in this division just seems ahead. Definitely the top 3, in my opinion, are light years ahead and going to be playing for playoffs. Number 4, I do have the Cleveland Guardians. After winning the division last year and going to the American League Championship Series, it doesn't look like it's going to be the same team, right? They did some what looked like sell-offs during the offseason and some trades of some players that they just didn't want to sign for longer. The rotation behind Beebe is a little bit questionable. Bieber's not going to be back for a little while. And whether their bullpen can duplicate what it did last year, I don't know. Even if it did, if that would be enough to move them up this board. So that, as a sum, kind of sums up where I am with the Cleveland Guardians. Number 3, I do have the Minnesota Twins. And compared to the other two, I think they do match up very well as long as they're healthy. I think that's the big asterisk with the Twins, as long as they're healthy. And I just don't think this team is capable with the players that they've kind of relied on with Buxton, with Royce Lewis. These guys just seem to get injured year in and year out in the core parts of this lineup. I think it's going to play a factor. I got to play it in my factor, and that's what's put them to number 3. And then that brings us to number 2, and this one is very tough. I think I flip-flopped a couple of times. So at number 2, I do have the Royals, and I'm just going to toss up the same Detroit Tigers at number 1 at the same time. I'm going to talk about the Tigers first. Just they bring back Flaherty. I think that's just massive. If he pitches anywhere like he did last year, the way the Tigers were the hottest team down the stretch, absolutely awesome. Skubal, Cy Young guy. This rotation is super strong, and all their young core is just going to have all that experience and motivation from last year. I think that's going to play a big part. If they can start playing winning baseball early and don't have to play from behind, I think that does give them the edge. At the same time, the Royals do have that up-and-coming team as well. Witt Jr., if he's capable of playing MVP-style baseball, this team is definitely going to be competitive all games, all across this conference. And their rotation as well is quite stacked as long as they can get Waka and Lugo to kind of perform like they did last year. So I think these two teams match up very closely. I think you can go either way. I'm leaning a little bit Detroit right now. I think the big factors for Detroit are going to be, are these young number 1 picks, first round picks, going to pay out this year? I think it's very well could be that situation. Number 5, we have the LA Angels for the West, and I don't know what else to say. They didn't really do much in the offseason, and they were pretty atrocious last year, and they were pretty much predicted to do barely better than the White Sox this year, so I don't think there's too much to add to them. They're going to be kind of a lowly team. Got to just feel bad for Mike Trout year after year being stuck on this team. Number 4, we have the Athletics, just the straight Athletics. I think at this point, you have to kind of assume the A's are going to be a little bit behind the playoff race that is in this division. I think it's a 3-horse race. The A's, we saw glimmers of hope last year. We saw them play very competitive, especially in their own division. And at times we saw a team that may be capable of making a run at this division because the division did show weaknesses last year. But I think if you add the 3 teams that are going to be fighting, they have added some impact. They've had these guys be around a little bit stronger together. And I just think in the pitching as a whole in this division, it's quite top heavy, whereas that's kind of where the bottom 2 teams lack. Speaking of pitching, at number 3, I do have the Seattle Mariners. Now, the Mariners, their biggest struggle last year was their offense. At one point, I think they had like an 8-game lead in this division, and just slowly but surely it fell. They tried to ride it off their rotation. The rotation continues to be super strong, right? But it's the bats, and whether they did enough in the offseason to elevate that, whether Julio Rodriguez will have that kind of outings that we know he is capable of. I think that's going to be what the Seattle Mariners ride or die on. And right now, I just have offense going to the other 2 teams. I have pitching being relatively close amongst these 3. So that's what puts Seattle down to number 3. Number 2, I do have the Texas Rangers. So that obviously means Astros up at number 1. Talking about the Rangers briefly, it's going to be important. DeGrom's coming back for this team. What kind of impact is he going to have on this team? Is he going to be able to deliver a full season of epic proportions? Obviously, he's getting older. He's dealing with injuries. Maybe he's got to be a different kind of pitcher. But we've seen guys like Max Scherzer come in here, have decent years. And if he can do that for this team, I think it elevates them to be that much more competitive. Having signed Eovaldi for another 3 years, I think they've really locked up what this rotation can be. It's enough of a strong rotation that's going to be competitive amongst the rest of the teams in this American League. So do not discount the fact that I have them second. I do definitely think they are on the trajectory to be a playoff team. We're going to have maybe more than one in this division this year. At number 1, we do have the Houston Astros. This feels like a new era for the Astros. I wanted to say that they were going to be a little bit of free falling, but just as I watched them and as I looked at their rosters and some of the moves, it just seems like a team that's transitioned into a new look team. It's not any of the guys that were on there during Trashgate, during that dynasty. We kind of just see Altuve. He's the only guy left, but even then they're pivoting him into the outfield. So how that's going to impact. Overall, they bring in some guys, Paredes, to try and fill in this hole of Bregman. I don't know if they'll necessarily miss out on Bregman too much. They do have a lot of young guys coming up, guys that they have developed in their own system. And the rotation, gotta be all right. And as long as Arrighetti can step up and be the kind of pitcher that they hope he can be, I think this team can carry on to number 1. There you guys have it. The American League. Let's jump into the National League. All right, let's keep the ball rolling, guys. But right before I do, I just want to do the one call out. If you are made it this far and not yet a subscriber, please subscribe to the channel. We are trying to hit 1,500 subs by the end of the month. We only got a couple more videos and possibly a live stream left to hit there, but I will be doing a hat giveaway if we do hit that by the end of the month. A couple of them usually each year, so be a sub. What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose? So we're going to jump into the National League, and at the bottom here in the NL East, I think it's pretty clear. They really only have one thing going for them this year, in my opinion. It's Alcantara coming back. And what are they going to be able to trade him for at the trade deadline? The Miami Marlins, one of those teams that just doesn't seem to be getting anything together and not being able to form a playoff caliber team. And in a division where the top 3 are powerhouses, top 5 potentially in the MLB, Marlins have a long way to go. They're going to have close to 100 losses. I don't know if they'll get there, but we'll talk about that in the power rankings tomorrow. Number 4, I put the Washington Nationals quite a bit ahead of the Marlins in terms of development coming out of it. They at least seem to have some players that are being impact all-star level of players. And if it wasn't just you have to send one guy from each team, I think the Nationals have a couple of guys, whereas Marlins maybe not. Nationals at least are trending up. They have still a big gap to go before we're starting to talk to them about them being a playoff team. But they got to have some things to be excited about this year. And I think overall, put the Nationals in the Central, we're talking about a whole different situation. So I think in the grand scheme of the MLB, we might see the Nationals more along the mid-tier of the power rankings this year. I'm excited to watch how this team develops. I don't have much else to say about them right now. Number 3, I think my National League predictions are pretty standard for most people. While the Mets are super exciting, they brought Juan Soto, massive contract in the offseason. Not a whole lot else that really changes this lineup. They were one of those teams that barely got into the playoffs. The wild card situation worked out in their favor. Having the Central in their league worked out in their favor last year. And I think the other 2 teams are just that much better than them in this division. The Mets, while they're going to be competitive, they're going to be fighting for a playoff spot. I don't know if they're really going to be fighting for a division crown. They might be in there for a little while, but the thing that does concern me is the longevity of this team. Alonso signing up for a little re-up there. Will he be able to deliver the home run ball that they're used to? I think that's one big question for the Mets. Of course, the Mets tried to get better from last year. They made it past the first round of the playoffs last year, right? So it's not out of the question for them to be a competitive team this year. I just worry whether division hopes are really up there for them. It'll be more interesting what they look like on the power rankings too. Next up, number 2, I do have the Philadelphia Phillies. If you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you know I've been pretty high on the Phillies now for a couple of years. It just hasn't seemed that this talent has come together, definitely in playoff time when it mattered. Last year, their record was pretty great throughout the season. I did hold them down for a while because I kept talking about how their record against good teams just wasn't there last year. I know they tried to add a little more depth again to their rotation this year. If they can build off of Wheeler, Ranger, Suarez, and Nola, if they can just add that 4th and 5th piece, I think this team can be very lethal. Their bats, they have the legendary names in there, and you would expect them to do very well. Just doesn't seem to work out for them. And right now, in my opinion, they still are chasing the number 1 dog, the Atlanta Braves. And I think if Philadelphia's going to have a shot at this division, they got to get out to a lead early in this season. Atlanta's going to be without Acuna. They're going to be without Strider for the first little bit. They lost Max Fried, so they're going to be trying to figure themselves out for the most part. But I think the bats, once Acuna gets back, it's going to be pretty impactful. So Atlanta, I think, is the team to catch. They've been that team for a number of years. Last year was an injury season for them, and they still managed to somehow get in there and do some damage. So Atlanta Braves trying to make waves and bring home another NL East crown, and I think they will. Moving on to the Central, and in my opinion, this division could go any way except for last place. I don't think this team has what it takes to win the division this year. The Cardinals, well, a lot of other people are predicting the middle of the pack of the division. I'm kind of ranking it as, do they have a shot at winning the division? No. Do all the other teams have a shot at winning the division? In my opinion, yes. So therefore, the Cardinals will be the bottom seed. Sure, they might move up 4th, maybe 3rd, but I think safely saying they're not winning first. Maybe I'll eat those words, but if you're a Cardinals fan, let me know what you're excited about. I was talking with other Cardinals fans. I don't know what much there is to be excited about. Maybe Sonny Gray, he's going to be good. Some of these young guys finally getting to see if they have what it takes. But they have Arenado, and they have Contreras, and those are the guys that are pretty much a staple in the lineup from years past. The rest are a lot of new faces trying to make their way, especially Newt Barr. Number 4, I do have the Cincinnati Reds. I think for most people, they have them predicted to finish last. I just am not super sold on the rest of this division. I think I've stated it before, it could go any which way. And I just do think the Reds don't have the pieces to put long stretches of wins together, whereas I do think some of these other teams. I think that's going to be a big important thing. Are they going to be able to close out a sweep? Are they going to be able to close out avoid getting swept game? Are they going to be able to win that rubber match when it's 1-1? I think when you match the Reds up against some of the other teams in the division, I think they fall a little bit short in that department, and that is why I have them number 4. So that's pretty much the main reason. Number 3, and this might be the shock of the division, I do have the Chicago Cubs. Projected by Vegas to win the division, and a lot of other people are kind of on the wagon too. I'm not super sold. The Cubs, like, sure, they've made some improvements. Kyle Tucker coming in there, probably going to have immediate impact. The rotation seems like some solid starters. They got Imanaga, who had a great year last year. They have Tyon, number 1 pick back 10 years ago. First round pick, 2nd overall, I think he was, a long time ago. He's there, and he's never really shown that he's that good, but he's definitely going to show signs for Cubs better. And then they have Justin Steele at the top. So these 3 guys are solid and have shown history. But I don't know if they lose one, or if one of them struggles and one goes down, like they're going to be thin really quick. And arguably you could say that about every team in this division, but I just am not quite there on the Cubs. I do think they're in the playoff race. These guys we're talking playoff teams at this point. This wild card with 7 teams. It's going to be super, super competitive. And this is just, I gotta make picks. And I gotta make some bold predictions. And this is about as bold as it gets in the National League. I got the Pirates at number 2. I think it's just a matter of time with these guys. They got Skeens. They got to take advantage of Skeens right now, and I think he's going to be lights out. And when you look at their lineup, they got 5, maybe 6 first-round picks. It's like time for these guys to figure it out at least once. So with the Pirates, I think it's going to happen. We've seen it before at the early seasons. They are a strong team, but they just fall off. Is this the time they finally get it together? I think so. Maybe play for first. But again, this is my bold pick of the series. Next up, I have the Brewers. I'm just gonna say it. I do have the logo. But Brewers at number 1. I don't think there's much to say. I think they are the better team. We saw it last year. The run differential, the offense. I don't think a lot has changed with this team. Sure, they lost Adames, but I think overall we're gonna see Jackson Chourio. We're going to see him carry this team. We're going to see other young guys on this team continue to show that this small market team can be competitive. I do have the Brewers at number 1. Just speeding along here, number 5, I have the Colorado Rockies. I don't think much to say. Rockies have been predicted last place in this division 4 straight years, and I think they've pretty much gotten there. I think they might possibly be one of the lowest teams, if not the lowest, on the power rankings as well tomorrow. But what am I going to say? The Rockies, they're in one of the strongest divisions. The other 4 teams all have playoff aspirations, whereas everyone expects the Rockies to stink. So that's pretty much what it's going to be. Number 4, maybe the resident Padres fan is getting a little bit in my head lately, but I do have the Padres taking a step back from where I normally would have them, being 4th in this division. I just think I'm not super sold that this owner is going to do the right thing, and that maybe if a little bit of struggles coming around the trade deadline, we might see trades like King going out, Cease going out. These could be issues. There are some trade pieces that are very much there. And when they see the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, and Giants trying to take steps forward, and they're kind of stuck in this contract situation with all these older veterans, it might be time for them to be like, all right, if we're going to be competitive in the next couple of years, we got to do a little bit of selling. So I kind of see that being the route for the Padres. Whereas number 3, the Giants is a team that I'm notoriously bad at predicting, so don't take this with a grain of salt. They bring in Verlander, they bring in Robbie Ray. I think that adds some intense potential to this rotation with Logan Webb at the top. In a division where their home ballpark might help them out in this situation as well. Offensively, not a lot of changes, and that's obviously going to be the big concern of this team. I think it's what's going to hold them back. But I think when we're looking at them on a day in and day out, they do match up well in a little battle, maybe a little bit offensively back from the East and the other West teams. But overall, in the playoff wildcard race, I think they match up very well with the rest of the teams. Number 2, Diamondbacks bringing Corbin Burns. I think that's the biggest story for the Diamondbacks this offseason. Just adding to what I would have considered one of the best rotations before that. Bringing in Zach Gallen, of course, with Burns and Kelly, and can Rodriguez do stuff, and can other Fat do anything this year too? This is a possible nice rotation. It's like they had Jordan Montgomery, who just didn't work out for them, And then they bring in Corbin Burns, one of the biggest sought-after free agents. Just epic. I think it does make them competitive with the Dodgers overall. And I think that's what, for most part, is why the Dodgers win total isn't as outrageous as you would think it would be as projected. But I do, of course, have them number one. I think everyone in their right mind has them number one. They're clearly the projected favorite of the World Series. They're the projected of the division. They're the projected wins total winner. Overall, how can you argue with the Dodgers? They just went out and it seemed like signed every free agent back to back to back to back and just slapped people around with those and made them feel sad. I know as a Jays fan, that's the case. But there you guys have it. My division predictions for the year. Make sure you are subscribed. We are going to be doing lots of videos this year. It's going to be a goal of mine to grow this channel to hopefully 5K subs. I think that's the goal for this year. And there'll be some fun giveaways, fun excitement. If you want to keep talking baseball outside of YouTube, do run a Discord. It'll be in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace out.